At 84, Paul Anka has seen it all: fame, fortune, heartbreak, and history. But now, in the twilight of his legendary career, he's opening up about the one chapter he's kept sealed for decades: his complex, emotional, and at times chilling relationship with Frank Sinatra. For years, Anka called him a friend, mentor, even a brother. But beneath the glamour was something far darker. There was control, silence, and an unspoken fear. In a new interview, Anka doesn't just honor Sinatra. He breaks the myth. What he saw, what he was asked to do, and what he refused to become changes everything. This isn't a tribute. It's a confession. And it's the story Anka swore he'd never tell until now. Before the fame, he was just a 15-year-old from Ottawa with a piano, a pencil, and a dream louder than the doubt around him. At 15, he wrote Diana, a heartbreak anthem that made him a star. But he wasn't just a singer. He was a songwriter, a force. By 18, he was touring the world, writing for others and standing beside legends. But one song would define everything: My Way. Adapted from a French tune, Anka wrote it not for himself, but for Sinatra, a man he admired and feared. He wrote it alone in a New York hotel room, the lyrics pouring out like a eulogy. When Sinatra heard it, he didn't just love it, he claimed it. It became his anthem, his legend. Anka watched My Way become iconic, played at funerals, quoted by presidents. Few knew Anka had written it, fewer knew what it cost him, because that song was his passport into Sinatra's world, a world of power, loyalty, and silence. He wasn't in the Rat Pack, but close enough to feel the heat. He saw the parties, the deals, the unspoken rules. Admiration had a price. Loyalty wasn't optional. From the outside, Anka looked like he was living the dream. But on the inside, he saw the machine. And My Way was the ticket in. Getting close to Sinatra meant entering a world where even success came at a cost. Sinatra didn't invite, he allowed. The Rat Pack wasn't just entertainers, it was an empire. And Frank sat at the top, his approval everything. Anka, still young, watched and learned. Sammy Davis Jr. brought the soul, Dean Martin, the swagger. Sinatra, he brought the silence, the kind that could freeze a room. Anka has said in recent years that Sinatra's power wasn't just artistic, it was political. You didn't cross Frank, he said. You didn't tell him no. You played the game or you vanished. Now when he tells the stories, it's with careful pauses. About Vegas nights where men with no titles gave orders, about calls from associates before a show, and about moments when even Sinatra looked uneasy, because some people in the room weren't just fans or promoters. They were something else entirely. Being close to Frank came at a cost. Paul knew that every joke, every deal, every song was performed under the eyes of people who never clapped. It wasn't paranoia, it was protocol. And through it all, Anka kept playing along, smiling, shaking hands, writing hits. Because saying no to Sinatra wasn't just bad for business, it could be dangerous. His world ran on loyalty, and betrayal wasn't punished in public. It was punished in silence. Opportunities vanished, favors reversed. Anka was there. He heard the whispers, he saw the quiet deals, and he learned the rules. Stay useful, stay polite, and above all, stay quiet. There's one night Paul Anka says he'll never forget. It didn't happen on stage or at some grand Rat Pack party. It happened backstage in a Las Vegas dressing room that smelled of sweat, cigarettes, and something colder. He was in his 20s, still flying high, still the golden kid who wrote My Way. That night he came in early, excited, with new arrangements in hand. He wanted to impress, but Sinatra was already there, seated, silent, flanked by two suited men and a half-empty bottle of Jack. Paul offered a handshake. Frank didn't look up. Then came the words, low and sharp. "Don't forget who made that song matter, kid." It hit harder than Paul expected. He wasn't just being put in his place. He was being reminded, no matter how talented, how successful, he would always be beneath the icon in the room. My Way belonged to Sinatra. The world agreed. And Paul? He was just the kid who got lucky. He didn't argue. He stood there, stunned. He thought about responding, but he knew better. He nodded. forced a smile, and backed out. That night, he performed like nothing happened. But inside, something shifted. Their relationship didn't end, but it changed. That was the night Paul stopped being a fan. It was the night he realized that in Sinatra's world, gratitude expired quickly. Respect had a limit. Love was conditional. Years later, he wouldn't call it a betrayal. He called it a turning point. "That's when I knew I was in the presence of greatness," he said, "but also in the presence of danger. Frank could adore you on Monday and forget you by Tuesday." That night didn't break Paul. It taught him to stand alone. After that, he never looked at Frank or fame the same way again. For years, whispers followed Paul like smoke. Quiet, persistent. Whispers about who Frank was really connected to, how deals were made in private, and where the real lines were drawn, the ones you didn't cross. And Paul, always observant, always cautious, saw more than he ever said, especially that night. The night a contract appeared that he still remembers in perfect detail. It was the early 70s, after a show in Chicago. The party was winding down. Paul was led into a side room in a penthouse suite. Just him and 3 men. One was a lawyer, though no one introduced him as such. The other 2? Just friends of the family. They smiled. They poured drinks. Then they slid a piece of paper across the table. It wasn't a record deal. It wasn't a publishing contract. It was something vaguer, open-ended, laced with language that didn't need explaining. They called it an understanding. The message was clear. Paul would join a quiet network. He'd get protection, access, favors. In return, certain shows would be expected. Certain payments wouldn't go through labels. Certain names wouldn't be questioned. Paul froze. He wasn't naive. He knew exactly what this was. He knew what signing meant, and what refusing could cost. One man leaned in. "Frank thinks this would be good for you. Wouldn't want to disappoint him." Another added, "You sign this, your family." But Paul didn't sign. He smiled, thanked them, and said he needed to check with his lawyer. Then he walked out, heart pounding, and didn't return to the party. The next few weeks were tense. Calls went unanswered. A headline show disappeared mysteriously, and though Sinatra never directly ordered it, Paul Anka believed he allowed it to happen. In Sinatra's world, saying no meant disappearing, so Anka survived by navigating carefully, staying visible on his own terms. Anka rewrote a French ballad into My Way for Sinatra, pouring himself into every lyric. When Sinatra made it famous, the song became his story, overshadowing Anka's authorship. For years, Anka stayed silent, mourning rather than reclaiming it. Behind the glamour, Anka saw a darker side: power, control, and women as pawns. Speaking out meant exile, so he learned to stay quiet to protect his family and career. Now at 84, with nothing left to lose, Anka is finally telling the full story, not for revenge, but for release. No longer the overshadowed kid, he's reclaiming his legacy, singing My Way as his own truth. After decades of silence, the final note belongs to him. Please subscribe to our channel for more videos, and don't forget to press the bell icon.